tablet. Download now by searching Bakersfield Californian in the Apple, Google, and Amazon app stores.
From the Bakersfield Californian, this is the Renegade Report.
Now here's your host, Francis Mayer.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Francis Mayer, and welcome to the Renegade Report. I'm the Sports Information Director of an athletic department that has over 90 years of history, and they're making new history every day. Now, last night, both of our basketball teams went down to Santa Monica and gave them a little bit of our Basque-infused love, but we will get to that shortly. Right now, we're going to check in with a statistician for one of the best athletic departments in community college history. This is Steve Lynch. Steve, how are you?
Good.
Last night, both of our basketball teams were on the road in Santa Monica. Do you know what happened out there?
Yes, sir.
What happened?
Both of them won, and big wins, especially for the women. But that was a battle for first place by winning. The BC women were able to catch up and tie Santa Monica for first place in the WSC South.
Yes, in the South. Now, how good are their chances to make the playoffs right now?
Well, I think the women are pretty much locked in at this point with a 19-4 record and 3 games to go. 18 teams from Southern California make the regional playoffs with 4 play-in, including 4 play-ins. But I think so the key for them is to try now to win the league title and get as high a seed as possible. Right now, that's, I think if they went out, they could be, maybe a top 4 seed. That's a possibility.
Now, they've played a couple distinct games, in my opinion. I mean, early on in the season, they had a record-setting run where I think they won their first 9 or 10 games to open the season. And then they hit a little rough patch for a bit, and that was confusing. But they, according to some of the players, they got away from team-based play. But they have had one player in particular who has she's been good all season, but she's been kind of on a renaissance lately. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, Nia Paige, who started out the season, fine. She was good. She's always a good player. She was through the first 11 games, she was averaging 14.6 points a game, solid numbers, 4.5 rebounds. But over the last 12 games, she's averaged 20.8 points a game and 8 rebounds a game and 2.5 blocks. So she's really stepped up her game down the stretch and really become a huge offensive force and been the team's focal point offensively here down the stretch.
Is it a stretch to say she's become a very good player? Is she a great player? Like, how would you characterize her at this point in the conference?
Oh, I think she's definitely first-team all-conference type player, one of the top players in the state. She's 16th in the state in scoring right now at 17.9 points a game.
Wow. And that's a contrast to the men who have counted on DeAndre Dixon, the guy out of Fresno, the wing out of Fresno, and Jameek Riviere, who came out of the Talented and Gifted Academy in New York. Those two guys are the chief scorers for the team. But here, and DeAndre, especially as he's been double and triple teamed, and as Coach Hughes says, has had junk defense thrown at him, his points per game average has gone down a little bit. But Nakia, she's just gotten better. Do you know why that is? Are they passing her the ball more? Are defenses just not cognizant of what she can do, or is she just really stepping her game up?
I think early in the season she was deferring a little more to her teammates. I mean, she wants to be a team player, and I think she was trying to defer and not. And now I think she realizes if they work hard to get the ball into her inside, it's not being, selfish to shoot the ball every time you have a good look at the basket inside. And so she's, being more aggressive, assertive inside with her and scoring a lot more. And she's shooting 50% from the field over the last 12 games. So, you can't really complain when you're, shooting that kind of percentage.
Right. Like you said, she's not being selfish if she has uncontested shots. And she has some talented folks. Steve, we're going to take a look right now at some women's highlights, actually. If you could cue those up, Chris, I'd appreciate it. Tell us what you see here. That's Kyla Dean driving to the hoop. But she's good. Nice. And right here, they're driving. And that's Nakia right there. What a ruthless block. Pass inside there.
Marissa Jones, who's really stepped up. Her and Kyla Dean both have been inserted in the starting lineup as recently and have really played well.
Making their coach look really smart. And how big? Because you said like 2 block shots a game. But what is a block on defense? Is that kind of like a dunk on offense?
At times it can be, because it really, a lot of times if you block a lot of shots, not only are you blocking shots, you're also causing the other team to miss shots that they would normally make because they're wary of you blocking their shots. And I think that happens a lot of times with Nakia. Like I said, she's averaging 2.5 blocks over the last 12 games, but there's a lot of times where you see girls go up and they kind of
hesitate, double pump,
and then they miss a shot that they probably should make.
Can we let's take another look at these highlights, chiefly so that we can watch Nakia brutalize this poor young lady. There's Kyla Dean, like you said, been inserted into the starting lineup, and she's been a revelation at guard for the Renegades. And then right here, we're going to see, I think this is the block shot. Look at this. Get out. I mean, that right there, that is demoralizing.
Yeah, I mean, look at that, like you said, it's kind of something that can turn momentum, swing momentum your way like a dunk.
Right, and that is the big play on defense there. The men's picture seems a little more cloudy to me, and they have been a team that it has been very streaky, I feel like. I don't know if you agree with me, but yeah, just take it away, Steve. What is going on with our men?
Well, the men have, like you said, been a little streaky. I think they play to the level of their competition a lot of times. When they're playing a really good team, they tend to play really well. If they're playing a poor team, a not so good team, they sometimes don't play.
Well, they lost to a team that was like 1-10 or 1-11, right?
Well, they lost to Glendale, who's 3-19 on the season, but DeAndre missed that game.
Okay, so that's obviously a factor. He's one of the top players in the state.
I mean, obviously, they should have won the game regardless.
Sure.
And that game could come back to haunt them. But right now, they're sporting a 16-9 record, which is they have the 12th best winning percentage in Southern California. But the problem is they're third in the standings, and it doesn't look very likely that they're going to be able to leapfrog Citrus for second place. They swept Citrus this year, but the Owls are 2 games up on them in the standings with 3 to go, so it's unlikely they're going to catch them. And I think a lot of times these voters, they don't look at overall record. They just look at league standings.
Oh, and you're talking about the coaches poll, of course.
Right.
And that plays into playoff eligibility, right?
Right, and BC in the latest poll on the men's side wasn't even in the top 15 in Southern California.
How does that happen?
Well, I don't think that some of these voters have the time to actually dissect all the results that closely, because if you look at the poll, BC's not ranked, and Pierce is, and BC has a better record than Pierce and beat Pierce head-to-head. The good news for BC is 3 of the teams that were in the top 15 at the start of the week have lost their first game of the week to teams with losing records. And I believe BC should be in the top 15 poll this coming Monday, whenever it's released, if they can beat Glendale in the rematch down in Glendale on Saturday. And I think if BC beats Glendale, then the big game for them is Wednesday at home against Canyons, who they're tied right now for third place in the Western State South Division. And that is going to be a huge game with huge implications for the BC men's playoff
picture. Yeah, no, absolutely. And that is also sophomore night, and that is the next home game we have, right? I mean, we're on the road, and like you said, they looked strong last night against Santa Monica, and that was a vengeance win for the women. Was it a vengeance win for the men? Did they lose to Santa Monica when they came to Bakersfield? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know the women, that was their only blowout loss of the year.
Oh, they lost by 20 points.
Right, and the other 3 games they've lost this year have been by a combined 10 points, and so that was a big win for the BC women last night. But the men, I think if they can win these next 2 games, then they got to close out with Antelope Valley, the team that's going to win the Western Conference South easily. They're on a roll, and so that's going to be a very tough game. So I think BC needs to win these next 2 games, and if they do, they should be in the playoffs. The men should be in the playoffs, but
So,
you know.
but again, like you said, like that their fate is somewhat out of their hands because some of the early losses that are going to come back to haunt. Obviously, that first loss against Glendale was very tough, and it's easy to go back and play coulda, woulda, shoulda, especially with the men's schedule. It seems like God, if DeAndre would have been healthy for that game. Obviously, those are things we can't predict. But then the other thing that I feel like is a factor with the men's team. That isn't a factor with the women's team is that they are very dependent on the contributions of Jameek Riviere and DeAndre Dixon, and the men need the Alex Daniels to step up, the C.J. Johnson to step up. Who am I leaving out there? But there are some secondary and tertiary players who need to step up and contribute those 10.5 board games, right?
Right. I mean, they don't really have a consistent third scoring threat. They usually have guys that'll have a good game here or there, and they have some good players. I mean, C.J. Johnson is a good player, but he's not a big scorer. He's an excellent rebounder, plays good defense. I mean, he's really played well down the stretch. But like you said, they're pretty much the two big guys, well, big as far as offensive-wise, DeAndre and Jameek. They average about almost 40 points a game, 35 points a game between the two of them. But David Woolley has stepped up,
Nicely,
some games.
David Woolley out of Inglewood. He really has, and he's a nice kid, too, by the way, Steve. He's very polite, and he's a nice kid, and we want to see him succeed. And the Renegades, frankly, they're not the men. The Renegade men are not one of the top scoring teams in the conference, right?
Right. I mean, offensively, they struggle a little bit, but they hang in there with most of their opponents, and like I said, they tend to play to the level of their opponents. I mean, they've played some really good teams, and they always stay close with them, but they seem to not blow out teams too, like Glendale.
Let's take a look at their highlights real quick. I know we're running short on time, but Steve, I just want you to look at these with me real quick. There's Coach Hughes looking dapper in a plaid jacket. We see the shot from Meek. Nope, that pass is going to be picked off, and oh boy. DeAndre got up there. He's got some hops. This is what Jameek does. Oh, the outlet pass, and I think that was Dysart there. Yeah. He got up there and scored, and then here's Meek is going to do what he does. Look at that. Is he 5'6", Steve?
I don't know how tall he is, but he's not much taller than that if he is.
Right, and then here he goes again.
But he's definitely not afraid to take it inside against the big guys.
No, he's absolutely not. Steve Lynch, it's always a pleasure to spend time with you. You're a huge help to me at Bakersfield College. Sometimes I don't know how I do it without you. Steve is an absolute detail freak when it comes to keeping track of every yard in football and every point, foul, and timeout in basketball, and we're really glad to have him on the team. Coming up next, we're going to switch from basketball to softball. It's Coach Hill and a girl who knows how to make money selling napkins. You'll find out what I'm talking about when we come back with the Renegade Report.